It is a new week for Bitcoin. This is the only Bitcoin chart that I care about. This is the Bitcoin daily. It has every piece of information that we could possibly need, every data point from a technical analysis perspective that we could possibly need for the short to midterm. And I want to break down basically targets to the downside, targets to the upside. But more importantly, I want to break down the reasons why those are the targets and these factors that come into play that could really move Bitcoin into either direction. Now, I just want to note, nobody in the world knows what's going to happen next, but having these targets and speculating and actually visualizing the scenarios is why we do technical analysis, so that we're prepared for the scenarios. Crypto success, if you want to win here in the short, mid, long term, it really is. It's all about preparation. It's all mental game. That's all it is, not prediction. So I'm going to talk about all these targets. Before we do that, everybody, please hit that like button for me. Your support means so much. If you're not a subscriber, please hit that subscribe. I just want to note the concern and what could really play into the downside for Bitcoin. We closed this last monthly candle below the 50-month moving average, an area Bitcoin has never contested with, right? So coming out of this bear market low, it might take a little bit of time for it to break above this area. So we closed below. Right now we have a current red candle below that monthly. So some obvious resistance there, while Bitcoin also contends and sees resistance with this 50-week moving average. Very big data point that we talked about for kind of a short to midterm concern, because in that last bear market low, when we came out of that bear market low, I'm sorry, not the last bear market, the 2015 bear market, we saw a similar move, 50-week moving average as it exits, and then it comes down and it puts in a higher low. So this was the end. This really was the end of that bear market, right? And then Bitcoin absolutely exploded, but there were some weeks of pain right there. So that's the initial concern right now when we look at the weekly chart. If a move like that happened, I just want to say it could be an ugly move, and the headlines, you can only imagine what they're going to look like, right? If this happened, but coming down to a higher low, even if it's this macro 786 line, 20% dip for Bitcoin, in the long term, when we zoom out on that chart, it could look just as bullish as we zoom out on the 2015 chart, right? So the fear is probably max fear right here, but look at that. It was the end of something brutal, the bear market. So that's something I just wanted to put into context before we dive into this chart now. And here's the chart. So much has gone on. It's been higher highs and higher lows for Bitcoin on the daily. It's exactly what we want to see when we're exiting a bear market. So we had this swing low back here in November. We broke finally back above and out of the 786 line. Remember that macro 786 cycle retracement line. And if you just look at what it looks like on this Bitcoin chart, these yellow lines have signaled the bottoms of bear markets. And for us now today, it is very simply the last bear market low to the bull market high. And it's just that retrace to the 786 below it and exiting out of it. So that's what just happened. This is huge. Now, a retrace to that area is in play, but this is what we're looking for, the pivot out of the bear market. And it's exactly what we want to see, is higher highs and higher lows for Bitcoin. So that's happened. Now, along the line of that happening, we've just been in these consolidations, putting in this structure. So here's where we start digging into the data, the technical analysis data, and finding targets now. We obviously finally came out of our ascending triangle. It took some time. We hit our target. So this is a target we've been tracking. It is of no surprise, Bitcoin trading just right above that target, right above this trend line. It's no surprise it's happening, but now what's next? That's the question. So if we look at this chart, what is next? Well, very clear target to the downside if we break down is right around $19,000 to $20,000. But what's the story there, right? Like, what is it just going to drop to that area? Well, the story there is the fact that if this trend line falls, the very first target I'd be looking for isn't actually this target. I'd be really analyzing a fall below the trend line, and we're going to talk about the upside targets and what Bitcoin could potentially do this week and why it could do it, a move to the upside. But if Bitcoin falls and breaks below this line, I'd really be evaluating kind of the 5 to 10% to the downside area. I think $21,000 area, I'd be evaluating that point, because oftentimes, so often, when we break these trend lines and these patterns to the downside, we get these pullbacks, right? And we actually just saw one back here. If we opened up a 6 hour on the ascending, we got a pullback to the trend line, and then Bitcoin fell, right? So we'd be evaluating potential pullback if we fall. So 21,000, kind of a first target for me. If Bitcoin bounces, comes back up, what happens here is a speculative scenario I would like to anticipate so that I can evaluate, is it actually going to break back above the area, or is there going to be a resistance here and it continues to fall? So boom, boom, and then boom to the $19,000 to $20,000 target. That's the downside scenario. Guess what? It's going to likely be off the back of whatever happens on the US dollar currency index chart. We see a little bit of a retracement in this trend that it's in, higher highs and higher lows on the US dollar currency index. This has helped Bitcoin a little bit, not much actually. Bitcoin actually didn't really make too much of a bullish move off of this. But if this chart bounces back to the upside, risk on assets like Bitcoin and crypto going to likely fall. And this could be the case for Bitcoin falling below the trend line. And this is why we should be prepared this week as we go into this new week. What's going to happen with the US dollar currency index? What's going to happen with stock market? Is this kind of a little fake out, the last 2 days of the S&P 500? Going to see resistance at the 20-day, come back down? Well, if that's the case, there's your bearish scenario for Bitcoin. Let's talk about the bullish scenario. It's just the inverse of what we just talked about. S&P continues to the upside, mainly because this chart, US dollar currency index, actually breaks its trend, starts falling. This could be so bullish for Bitcoin. So this is something I'm very much keen on watching as we begin this new week, because if it happens, here are the targets to the upside. Very simply, we have obvious 20-day moving average right around $23,600. And then we have the 50-day moving average right around 23,000. So this little channel here, if Bitcoin can make a move, is that first area of resistance. The reason why I'm watching this area is very simply because there are moving averages that are incredibly important. We want to see Bitcoin get back above those areas as quickly as possible. Remember, the bullish environments for Bitcoin is when it's making higher highs and higher lows above these moving averages. But if there's resistance there and it comes back down to the trend line, what do we have? We very simply have a head and shoulders in play, right? And the head and shoulders in play actually has a breakout target. If you look at this, I mean, it's a little bit further down than the rising broadening wedge that we have at around 19,000. We're looking closer to around 18,000. So $17,000 to $18,000 target to downside if this head and shoulders plays out. Notice one thing. This isn't something that's going to happen overnight. Like, I'm going to have to keep doing TA videos, tracking this. This is going to take some days to play out the scenario, but it's very good and I think wise, I would think, to be prepared for setups like this, because during these setups, we get that emotional volatility, right? Meaning if we got to move to the upside, the 50-day moving average, the 20-day, you can imagine if the week opens green, people are going to start getting bullish very quickly. Even with a small green candle like this, people get that hopium gets infused into the markets very quickly. So we should be prepared for resistance and just potential retrace back to the trend line to test. Now, the bullish case is Bitcoin breaks that resistance and actually starts making its way. We have another little run similar to these previous swing highs. So we had a high here, retrace, a higher high, a retrace that we're in right now. We get another higher high to really make this rising broadening wedge just pop. And we could be looking at $26,000, $27,000 target to the upside. That's kind of that second bullish target if Bitcoin is able to break this channel of resistance, namely the moving average area. And it's a pretty small area. It's 22,900 up to around 23,600. Pretty small channel. We're going to see what direction Bitcoin goes. Will the move start today, Sunday? Not quite sure if it's going to do that or if it wants to wait for US dollar currency index stock market to start kind of giving us a signal. The rest of the things happening in the world play such a key, crucial role in what happens next on this chart. So as we hover around this trend line, again, no surprise that we're here. We hit the target very nicely. These are the scenarios I'd be anticipating. And along that journey of these scenarios, and they're very volatile, right? Downside, potential pullback, upside, potential throwback, all of these scenarios. The question I just ask myself is, am I prepared for that? Am I ready? Am I situated? And I think right now my answer is yeah. And that's why I do technical analysis, because I'm kind of like, we get that bull move to 26, 27,000. I'm enjoying it. We get a break to the downside. It's not fun. I don't like seeing red candles. Nobody really does in crypto unless you're shorting it. But it's that long story. Even if Bitcoin came back down to $17,000, that is bullish. It's a 20% move, but it's a higher low potential move for Bitcoin in this trend out of the bear market. And what is it? It's a very similar picture to what we saw back in 2015. And I don't have the chart open, but you just saw that chart all the way back here in 2015. So very similar move to that. So either way, everybody, you all know I'm macro bullish, but these are the things I think that are probably worth noting, worth tracking on the dailies. We get this week started. Let me know your thoughts in the comments, everybody. Hit that like, hit that subscribe. Have an awesome start to your week. I'll see you in the next video. God bless.